In 2018, the GRU launched a covert operation that targeted opposition politicians and key figures involved in anti-government movements in Macedonia, an effort aimed at destabilizing the political situation in the region. The operation was part of a broader campaign by Russia to increase its influence in the Balkans and undermine Western-backed governments in countries that were seen as crucial to NATO expansion. The political landscape in Macedonia was already tense, as the country was grappling with internal divisions and pressures from both the European Union, EU, and NATO to align with Western values. Macedonia's decision to pursue EU and NATO membership was met with stiff resistance from Moscow, which viewed such moves as a direct challenge to its strategic interests in the region. The GRU, operating through cyber and hybrid warfare tactics, sought to disrupt the political processes and destabilize key political figures in the country. The operation relied heavily on cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns, two tools that the GRU had used to great effect in other regions of Europe. First, the GRU hackers infiltrated the email accounts of Macedonian politicians, including those with close ties to pro-Western factions, and leaked sensitive documents that were intended to discredit them publicly. This disinformation was then disseminated through a series of bot-driven social media campaigns that targeted both Macedonian citizens and the broader international community. One of the key goals of the operation was to create political division and instability in Macedonia. The GRU spread false narratives designed to amplify existing ethnic tensions between the country's Slavic Macedonians and the Albanian minority, as well as to create distrust between political parties. The ultimate aim was to prevent the Macedonian government from following through on its commitments to EU and NATO integration. To ensure the operation's success, the GRU also targeted pro-Western activists, individuals who were advocating for democratic reforms and European integration. These activists were subject to online harassment and doxing as the GRU worked to discredit them in the eyes of the Macedonian populace. This was part of a broader effort to sow discord and weaken the opposition to pro-Russian candidates and policies. The cyber attack on Macedonia was part of a broader Russian strategy to exert influence over the Balkans, where Russia has historically had strong ties with certain political factions, particularly those with nationalist or anti-Western views. Russia viewed the EU and NATO's expansion into the Balkans as a direct challenge to its sphere of influence and sought to counteract these efforts by instigating political crises in countries like Serbia, Montenegro, and Macedonia. The GRU's intervention in Macedonia was designed to prevent the country from fully aligning with Western institutions and to increase Russian leverage over the region's political direction. The operation also served as a demonstration of Russia's growing use of hybrid warfare, where cyber attacks, disinformation, and political manipulation were used in tandem to influence national politics. This tactic would later be seen in other countries, particularly those in Eastern Europe, as Russia sought to counter Western influence in the region by any means necessary. Although the attack on Macedonia did not result in a full political collapse, it did have significant consequences. The leaked documents and disinformation campaigns raised doubts about the integrity of Macedonia's political leadership and played a role in delaying the country's EU accession talks. Additionally, it caused tensions between Macedonian political factions, with some accusing the pro-Western government of being incompetent and easily manipulated by foreign powers. The operation, while not as high profile as some of the GRU's other campaigns in the United States or Ukraine, was still a critical component of Russia's strategy in the Balkans. It demonstrated how cyber operations could be used to shape political outcomes in a region that was considered strategically important to both Russia and the West. The Macedonian operation further solidified the GRU's reputation as one of the world's most formidable and effective cyber espionage agencies, capable of influencing the internal affairs of sovereign nations through disinformation, cyber attacks, and political subversion. Following the operation, international experts began to pay closer attention to Russia's activities in the Balkans and its growing efforts to destabilize governments that were considered favorable to EU and NATO membership. The attack also led to increased calls for cyber defense reforms within both Macedonia and its NATO partners, recognizing the urgent need to bolster the region's resilience against Russian influence in the cyber domain. Ultimately, the GRU's interference in Macedonia underscored Russia's willingness to use cyber tools to conduct covert political warfare in countries that were trying to integrate into the Western geopolitical sphere. It set a dangerous precedent for future Russian interventions, not just in the Balkans, but in other regions where Russia sought to maintain influence at the expense of international security and political stability.